Hey everyone, it's Evangeline right here at eTrailer. Today we have the Rhino-Rack spare tire mount carrier. This is the Rhino-Rack 2, where it attaches to your spare tire in the back of your vehicle and allows you to carry up to 2 bikes. Now this is a pretty standard carrier with a maximum weight capacity of 33 pounds per bike. So this is going to be ideal if you really just need a way to get your bikes out onto the road and maybe you don't have a hitch on your vehicle, or your hitch is already full of something else and you just need another option. So let's go take a look at some of the other features and see if this is the right fit for you. If you're familiar with different styles of bike racks, this one right here is considered a hanging rack. And that means that when you load your bikes up, they kind of hang from the rack arms. And that style is great if you need something that is affordable, lightweight, compact, meaning it takes up less space. Not as ideal if you have heavier bikes or if you would prefer to support your bike from the wheels instead of by the frame. So with this rack over here, we do have a lighter weight capacity. So if you have heavier electric bikes, probably not ideal. But also, since this is secured to your spare tire, you don't want super heavy items on there anyways. This uses 2 arms that are slightly offset towards the driver's side, helpful just because of the orientation of most spare tires. And with those 2 arms, they support that top frame part of the bike, and you have some nicely molded cradles and rubber straps to keep things down and secure. What you might be used to seeing on other hanging racks that you don't see here is a third cradle. That third cradle is usually there to reduce the sway and add that from the back of the bike security to the rack. The reason this one doesn't have it is we do still need a little bit more adjustment of the bikes on this rack just to get the best fit overall. So instead, Rhino-Rack does include 4 of these hook and loop straps, which I like to put all throughout the rack. Whenever I feel like maybe a front wheel needs to stop moving around, I will then secure the front wheel to the frame or the bikes to each other. With that in mind, while you could use these straps to remove some wobble, you probably won't eliminate it 100%. If that is the case, you do have to remember that, again, follow the weight capacity of this rack and don't use this for off-road purposes. Now, that's what hitch-mounted bike racks are for. This is also not rated for trailer or caravan spare tires, meaning the tires that are mounted to the side of trailers or things like that. Only mount this to the rear spare tire of the vehicle. It is suitable for RV use, but just be mindful again of weight capacity and just remember where is that spare tire mounted to, because that's where your weight capacity comes from. As for types of spare tires, this does fit. This can fit tires that are up to 33 inches in diameter and up to 12.5 inches wide. Probably my favorite part about this carrier is while it is affordable, it still has a lot of adjustability. This support bar can be adjusted up, down, as well as side to side to better accommodate those different types of tires. This is what our bike rack looks like without the bikes on. So you can see just how it does kind of stick out past our tire. Not as huge as other components that you may have mounted there, but if you want to, let's say you want to keep your bike rack on, but you don't want the arms sticking out, you can adjust these knobs up top. So there's 2 knobs, once they're both loose, as well as once your retaining strap at the bottom is loose too. You're then able to adjust this down, just like that, and tighten it or lock it back down with those knobs you just loosened. So just a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more compact. If you wanted to take this off completely, it's simply a matter of undoing that strap, and this strap, and you can just take the whole system off, just like that. If I had a friend that came up to me and was looking for a way to carry around 2 of their bikes and they're just looking for the easiest possible solution to do so, when they have a spare tire on their Jeep or their vehicle, this might be the first one that I would recommend. It's affordable. It doesn't have a complicated installation process. I'm not dealing with tightening down any lug nuts. This is a quick and easy on and off onto the tire. And yes, the weight capacity isn't as much and it's not as wobble free as some other options are. But if my main priority is just to get out onto the trails as soon as possible and maybe I'm okay with a hanging style bike rack, then this is a great way to start. If you are looking for other solutions though, let's say you need a little bit more weight capacity or you want something that adjusts even more for offset tires, something worth looking at is the Yakima Spare Ride. That looks like a hanging rack because it has a center post mast and it secures to the center of your wheel. But while it is a pricier rack, it also has a lot more stability compared to our Rhino-Rack carrier here. That one is going to be a little bit more involved when you install it though, and it will definitely cover up the backup camera that a lot of your spare tires will now have, especially if you have a more modern vehicle. So there's definitely pros and cons to them. And my personal suggestion for a lot of people is just to get a hitch added to your vehicle if you really want stability. Just because a hitch will have more weight capacity, you're going to have more options for carrying around your bikes. Yes, it'll be a lot more hassle to get a hitch installed and then to get a bike rack on there, but I think it's worth it in the long run. But sometimes you don't have that time or money or motivation to get all of that done. If you want to get out onto the trail faster, this is going to be a great way to go, as long as you remember the proper way to install it and to install your bikes. The good news is that your bike rack arrives fully assembled, so you don't really need to do much other than make sure that you have your spare tire all set up. So take a look at the spare tire. If you have a cover, Rhino-Rack does recommend taking it off, mainly because some tire covers they have like a film on them. They're a little bit not grippy, so in order to ensure the best grip of the bike rack, you want to take that off. Now grab a tape measure and you're then going to measure for the width of your tire. So I have about 10 inches of width right here. All of this adjustment is done with these knobs over here. You're going to want to loosen the knobs until you can flip those arms out 90 degrees. So that's a good spot. Then we're going to tighten that back down. Just make sure you're not over tightening these knobs. You can see the teeth on the inside, and that's how you'll get a good gauge on whether it's locked in or not. And then we're going to adjust our arm length. So the arm length starts at around 9 inches of width. That's going to be measured from the knob to the inside opening. Remember how our spare tire was at around the 10-inch range? Well, we can adjust it really quickly. So I already took off the one bolted knob, and we're going to take off this other one. Just loosen the knob over here till that pops off. Remove that washer and remove that bolt. So you have two options here. You can either adjust this bracket, and this can go up and down if you need more or less height of the bike rack. But in our case, we need a different width. So I'm just going to pop that piece out, and I'm going to put it right back in a little further down the arm, making sure it lines up with that hole. And that just pops right back on. And then now we're going to line that with our bracket on our rack, and then we're going to put the bolts back in and tighten everything back down. Now before you fully tighten down those knobs, this is a perfect time to bring this rack on over to the spare tire, just to double check the fitment and everything. For those that have lights like what we have here, you do want to be mindful about that, because in our case, we have some rubber bumpers in the back, and there's a good amount of flex on the light here, so that I know that as I am careful about putting that rack on and over, once it gets past that top bracket, there's plenty of space back here. If your light does not have that flex, it doesn't have any rubber pieces that allow you to move this around, or if it makes contact with the rack while the rack is on the spare tire position, you may want to reconsider that fit. You want to make sure that you're not breaking any other components as you put this rack on there, but that everything can fit together nicely. So this is a good example of a good fit. When that all looks good, go ahead and tighten down those knobs. Again, making sure not to over tighten, but just double checking visually that everything is lined up and secure. You also would want to look at the height of your rack. And good fit is also when these bottom bumpers are ideally up against the tire. In our case here, they're up against it on the very edges of the rim, so I think that's all fine, but you can adjust up and down with that bracket up there as needed. When that's ready to go, we're gonna go ahead and put the retaining strap in. So on the side of your rack, you're gonna have these buckles. So you're gonna have a strap that doesn't have any metal pieces or buckles. That's the strap that goes into each buckle on each side. And then that way, you just cinch down by pulling tight on that strap, and this will be your retaining strap for the rack. Then you have another strap, and this one has a buckle. So we're gonna bring the buckle around the back of that top arm. We're gonna get the strap, and it's gonna tie into itself, just like that. We're then going to feed the strap around the back of the tire. And then this goes and feeds down and through the rim. By the way, there's a little hole on the inside of our spare tire carrier here that I was able to feed that strap through. Double check if yours has the same. Most of them really do. And then once you have that strap out on this spot, you're then going to feed it into that metal buckle and then tighten everything down. So if you felt like your rack was feeling a little wonky when you tied down that first retaining strap, this might adjust things for the better. Now it's time for the fun part, which is loading up your bike. So for the direction of the bike, the main thought here is that if you have two bikes, you just want them facing the opposite way. For me personally though, if you ask for my recommendation for when I load up my bike, what I like to do is have the drive shaft facing away from the tire for the first bike, just because that's a lot of components that can come pretty close to the spare tire as things move around, and that's just how I do it for hanging racks. But depending on your different bike sizes and your distance away from your tire, you could adjust as needed. Just remember, the main rule is for two bikes, having them face the opposite way is the way to go. Try to push this all the way up against your seat tube for just a good corner fit. And then as you tighten down that strap, just try to get it to the tightest fit that you can manage. That there looks good. I put a second bike up there, and you can see that I needed to add something else to it, and that's going to be a frame adapter bar. So if you have, let's say, children's bikes, mountain bikes, step-through frames, you may need this add-on piece. It's not included with a rack, but you can find them from many different brands right here at etrailer. So what it does, it just adds another bar, so it levels out your bike. Here we have a mountain bike where it was necessary. And that was necessary because the distance from one arm, or I guess one cradle to the other, outside to outside is 15 inches. So double check your frame, that triangle there, and see if you may need a frame adapter bar or not. Now what is included with your rack though are these hook and loop straps. So these are here to help minimize the movement of your bike. So you may notice that your front wheel will want to spin around. Here we have two bikes there, they're all kind of smushed together. But if you needed to secure them, you would put the strap through the front wheel, see how it's secured to the frame, and then you put the end of the strap through the buckle, and then that tightens down back into the hook and loop and makes for a very secure fit. So hopefully this video helped you out with just seeing how this bike rack works, some things you may need to consider as you use it, how to install it, and apparently uninstall it from your vehicle. And I personally am pretty happy with this rack overall. It's lightweight, it's compact, it's easy to install, but most of all, it's affordable. So if you're just looking for that quick and easy solution, this is going to be a great way to start for your vehicles that have spare tires. Also pretty easy to store in your garage when you don't need it. If you have any questions or want any more information, feel free to give us a call or check out our product page here at etrailer. We have this with all the specs and info on the page, as well as all the other different types of racks you might be interested in comparing this with here on the website. But today, this was a look at the Rhino-Rack 2 bike rack, spare tire mounted for your different vehicles at etrailer.com. My name is Evangeline, and I hope you enjoyed this journey.